Hello, everyone. We are going to talk today about something that is still taboo in a society because it's going to be about mental illnesses. So, manic depression, borderline, bipolar disorder, but also we are probably going to talk about dreams, sacred space to chasing your internal experience. And to this conversation, I invited Jamie Weil. Welcome, Jamie. How are you doing there? Are you still with me? Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you perfectly. Thank you so much for inviting me to your space, your sacred space.
Thank you so much for being here. Considering the connection, I hope it's going to work. So let's try this. Jamie is a teacher, but not a typical teacher. She is specialist with reluctant readers and academic about development and working with second graders. She's a Reiki practitioner. She's an author, and she's bringing her program to the schools. Is that right? Did I forget anything else? Oh yeah, you are a filmmaker.
I am. I am. You cut out, so I'm not sure what parts you said.
Yes, that's what's going on. So for the purpose of this, so I hope the connection will be better. I will cut out myself a little bit from the camera and I will let you talk. I was introducing you as a teacher, filmmaker, author, and you are a specialist with reluctant readers. Can you tell us more about your fascination with such wild topics from illness, sicknesses, mental illnesses through dreams? Yes, we're gonna get there slowly through all the spirituality you mentioned and I learned recently.
Yeah. So I think that I came into this life with awareness of finding your bliss. It's one of the Joseph Campbell is the guru in this area of finding your bliss, and it's one of the things I teach my children, I teach my students, and I've just always found my bliss in other people's stories. I find people fascinating at all. The more complex, the more interesting and fascinating to me. I'm deeply spiritual, so I look for how we all fit together. We can appreciate, not even appreciate, but just really, what's the next level of word?
Connect.
Really embrace people's
Mhm.
unique differences. And I can just sit for hours and discover this wherever that dynamic runs up against an area that's super complex like mental illness, and I have a personal experience as I did with my oldest in his early teens and throughout his teen years, that becomes a passion. And I really wrote my first young adult novel, First Break, first person journey about a psychotic break, which happens frequently when teenagers leave and go to college. In our case, it happened much earlier, but I wanted to share in that story a perspective of compassion and empathy, which I felt like were missing from the conversation of mental illness.
Mm.
And also, as a teacher archetype, I've been teaching since I was a third grader, sent down to the first grade classroom.
Mm.
It's just my art. I actually have a master's in teaching in California and a CLAD credential, and I've taught a number of different. But I've also taught a lot of adults, and I've taught families, and I've taught foster parents, and it's just something I do all the time. So it's how I go through an experience, and I want to forward and teach other people through story. So I'm doing that through film right now. Creating a series called Social Distancing Together. You can find it on Instagram, TV. Cassandra's story, I'm working on Ellie's story, and they're really fascinating first 18, 20-year-olds talking about not only their experience with mental illness, but also the other layers. When we have a mental illness, it's just one piece of us, but we haven't really learned to talk about it like that. So we've learned not to talk about it. We've learned to be quiet about it and to hide it. And that's just not, everybody's got something going on. Everybody's
Right.
one, one step away from a psychotic break, and really has something going on. Everybody. So, yeah.
Some people say it's actually a gift because you are going deeper, mental difficulties, challenge, forcing you to go deeper within yourself. And when I did a little bit of research about you, I had an impression you take all that what is so-called mental illness and you turn that into art, inspiration, and yeah, something beautiful. Because you also come to the schools with the programs you want to introduce. How do you introducing your program to the school to make it better for those teenagers?
Yes, thank you for that beautiful way you phrased that. What as a teacher, I saw that I was teaching second graders in a classroom, but none of the parents and none of the students had any background on mental health. In fact, in California, we have what they call standards. I don't know how they do it all over the country, but here we have standards that teachers have to hit. And in each category, English, math, health, there were in sixth grade, for example, 20 lessons taught. None of them mental illness. I don't think to this day, California, where we finally got like one class had to be mental illness, but they're not talking about it. And mental illness is just a biological illness. It's a biological illness, like other things that fall in that category, and yet we weren't talking about it. So the teachers then who aren't trained in how to detect early symptoms and don't really know unless they've had a personal experience with their own child or sibling or something really close to home, they don't really know what's happening, can't help their students. You can't teach them. Their brains are shut down for one reason or another. And then we get more and more complex problems because we're not addressing it early. Whereas if you address it early, there's a huge probability that for a period of time we can go in another direction. But if we don't, then it's like cancer. It's like if you don't hit stage 1, then you're going to get stage 2, and you're going to hit stage 3, and you're going to hit stage. You progress on. But if you get in there and treat proactively, if you're educated about it, you can treat proactively. So
how
that's
do you detect? Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, go.
I just quick with my curiosity. How do you detect, if I may ask, those early symptoms? Are you able to train those teachers, those professionals, to detect those early symptoms, and what would be the treatment? Because also this problem is worldwide. This is not only in USA, but it's also Germany is the same thing. And the treatment, the traditional treatment, very often involves only medication.
I come in and I am a people first rather than, as we talked about before, I am about each individual person is a unique person. There's not, just as we each get a cold differently, we each will get, or coronavirus, we're going to talk about that. That seems to be pretty uniform, but in a lot of the flu, the cold, we get different types of symptoms. We need, and different degrees, we need different types of treatments. And I'm about looking at all of the types of treatments. But here's the thing. And here's what I've noticed throughout my life. Just talking about something, when you're holding secrets, when you're holding, family secrets or personal secrets, and you're not telling people because you think that it's weird, or, you're going to have to do something you don't want to do, or you're hiding it, that adds a layer of pressure.
You got out for a second, but if you could just repeat what it adds. Yeah, it
makes it worse when we hide stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Line, right? So we need to be able to create a safe space around talking about things, talking about early symptoms. The problem now is we've created this, it's changing slowly, but we've created this space that's not safe to talk about anything we think is not normal, especially in middle school, right? So we have to create a space on all levels to talk about this, so that we can begin to identify, so that we can tell teachers, look for this. I mean, good teachers are, they figure out, if they've had personal experiences, how to do this to a degree, but still in California, we are not trained as to what these early symptoms might look like.
Are you welcome in those schools? Because that also, I heard, can go different ways. You cut out for a second. I don't know if you hear me, but let's see for a second.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Yes, it's okay. I also didn't hear you, but we are just going to get back to a little bit. Are you able to implement and help those schools? Is it easy? Are the schools professionals are hearing you, are willing to cooperate? Are there any obstacles to pass?
Oh, yeah. There's obstacles. There are obstacles everywhere. At one point, my goal was to create what we were calling Mission Act, and that was to bring the docuseries, that 6-part docuseries we've been working on, to bring that, plus my novel First Break, which is a first-person journey and has a great resource section in the back. You can get that on Amazon. So to have that in the classroom, as it really is written to follow what we have here called core, common nationally, and the standards, it was written to fit within those categories so teachers could use it, right? So that novel, the docuseries, and then curriculum to tie it all together, and just doing YouTube channels, interviews, not even interviews, just 15-minute blurbs on my YouTube channel talking about mental illness, talking about what a toolkit looks like, talking about COVID and mental illness and how that fits in together. It's actually like the whole world's in a psychotic break, the whole world's sheltering at home. People who have been through this is like, they've been trained, they know this is kind of the way it goes. But the hard part of having a mental illness and going through a break is you're doing this and everybody else is going on like normal. Now we're all like locked down, right? So it's fascinating to me why there is such a resistance from the schools. I think it would solve so many problems if we would bring in the conversation, but there is definitely a fear about it, and there's definitely a pushback, and they're so worried about doing it wrong, and so worried about, to me, it's just, we just start talking about it, but there's got to be, we got to do this in place, we got to have that in place, we got to do that in place. And so it keep this fear hold them back from doing anything. And that's where we're at. And so I just try to keep doing my stuff.
What do you need? Right. What do you need in order to get better? I understand this problem very well because in the schooling, and also I'm also a teacher, but in the schooling and also mental health, it's very hard to implement something alternative, something more, not saying that other treatments, just connect the treatments or just connect, not changing everything, but just add piece here, piece there. That normally here also in Germany meets with resistance. So maybe you discover through all this time of your practice what could be helpful to convince people or to uh,
Well,
inspire.
my yeah, I mean it's at every level too, right? Because my oldest son he's a professor at a university, and
Mm-hmm.
his partner, university professors on the mental health advisory of universities in California now, and in Arizona. It's at that level too, trying to figure out how to incorporate it into the model. I just say, let's create a safe space where we can talk about it. However, we're going to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
understand, and one more piece to the daily schedule is difficult, but you know what? Teachers do it for testing.
Right.
Which, right?
Yes.
Standardized testing sure gets its daily, read out of the thing. It's really just, as you know, I mean, I don't know what it's like there, but when I was teaching, I sat on, I helped build a school in a really
Mm-hmm.
Manhattan Beach, which is an area in Southern California that celebrities go to the school. I helped create the curriculum. I sat on curriculum committees to pick the curriculum. It's swingy here in California. It goes back and forth from this to that, the other thing. And what are we gonna bring in on a Friday? Are we gonna bring in, project self-esteem on Friday? It's an ongoing thing. I don't know. That's one of the things that
Mm-hmm. You cut
I
out for
prefer
the
to.
last sentence of that, but you were
I
talking.
said one of the reasons I left teaching was the politics of education. Um,
Oh,
I don't do
okay.
politics. I'm a creative. I want to bring work into the world that will help. I work with the principal that who is who is meant to hear it, who
Mm-hmm.
is meant to see it, will see it. And I have many people that tell me that my work has saved their lives. So that to me is what I do. I just create it. I try to connect with spirit and let whatever is meant to be out in story and the media. Film is, a novel. Is it? I just wrote a Mind, Body, Spirit, but so what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Go about
You're
getting it
cutting
out
off
in the world.
when you
So that's where
started.
and I let.
Can you repeat that part about your novel? You started to write a novel about?
Uh, so this a few weekends ago, I wrote a novel, a mind, body, spirit novel, which was a genre I've never written in before.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what needed to come out right now. It just was something that I was being called to do. So that's what I listen to. I listen to my own intuition, bring my creative skills and my skills as a teacher and a listener and a dreamer to that space and do the thing. When it comes to figuring out the schools, oh my gosh, what a tough job.
Right.
I just
Yes.
know it needs to be there. And I understand, the difficulties with getting it there. Sometimes I'll go for a year trying to do it, and then I'll just be like, it's just
Mm-hmm. Let's jump
like a
into.
brick wall. It's a brick
Mhm.
wall. So,
Yeah, let's jump into your passion about connecting these things because you help people with mental illnesses, teenagers, and also you are a big dreamer. You are a prophetic dreamer. And there is a correlation between mental illness or so-called, because maybe it's just the word crazy, but who who is creating those definitions of what's crazy, what's not. Maybe it's something odd, peculiar, but it's some connection between those two, this spiritual, dreaming, intuitive aspect of your life with those people who have challenges.
So I'm not sure what you're wanting me to answer there, but let me just, I love the topic of dreams and the whole spectrum that they run through. In this last project a few weeks ago, I addressed, I wasn't planning on doing this, it just kind of poured out, but I have been a dreamer all my life. I have precognitive dreams. I had a 200,000 page dream journal, which I've converted over to another program now that's easier to manage. I track my dreams.
Mm-hmm. Where you, when you say you are prophetic dreamer,
indigenous, I heard prophetic dreamer and that cut off.
I'm sorry because you cut off, so that's why I ask a question and see if the connection will come back. We are working with the connection cutting off and bringing back. So when you say you're a prophetic dreamer, what does it mean? Are you predicting the world events or just your day-to-day life?
No, so precognitive is the word that I've come to know what I do is called. I didn't know it, but I will dream things in advance. It's not deja vu. It's a I will dream a conversation, for example, and it's not anything scary and it's not anything significant like a lot of times. But I know in that conversation to turn, it's like I get to the Y on a road and I know which way to go because in the dream, the conversation went one way and I know that I'm at this place where I need to say something that I didn't differently. It's like I get a redo. And it's like it's really not those big of deals, but the fact that I have that all my life and I can go to these other lands that are, I'm actually going to write, I've never written a fantasy genre, but I'm actually going to write a fantasy genre about this one particular place because it's really amazing and I want to share it. But it's a positive thing. When my son was in 4th grade, he started having violent nightmares, like just horrible nightmares. It was so scary for him that he didn't want to go to sleep. And that I love sleep and I love dreams. I look really forward to going to sleep when I sleep 8 hours, like no alarms. I just do it. It's just a gift. I just like what I do. But it was the opposite for him. And it gave me so much that he couldn't sleep. And that when he did, he had this really scary territory. So I would try and find out from doctors, from dream people, like how to work with that material. Like, what do you, it's so out of my wheelhouse. Like where do we even go with that? And what I found was in spiritual circles, they either want to talk about dreams and maybe a little bit of nightmares, or we want to talk about mental illness, night terrors. And there's not like a conversation integrating all of it. But if you look at indigenous cultures and how they used dream material and how they treated mental illness for that matter.
Yes. You cut off for a second, so I don't know if you hear me, but let me just reframe that. You were talking about indigenous people and shamanistic approach to dreams. Are you still hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
In some cultures, when they have psychotic symptoms, what we call psychotic symptoms that are scary here in the United States, that's the next shaman. Everybody gets excited. They like put the shaman in the wilderness, and now we have a new shaman. So it's a very cultural experience also. But I think the beauty of us being so different is that we can look to other cultures and we can be like, oh yeah, let's bring that over. But we can't do that if we're not talking. If we just shut up about the whole topic, we can't come to any of these pieces. So I love what you're doing here, and I love the idea. I wish we had a better connection technically,
yes,
but
I wish that too.
but it's one of the things I love to talk about, because I think if we can, we have a nation of over here. I don't know what it's like in Germany, but I suspect some of the same, having had German foreign exchange students, that we have a nation of non-sleepers, and
That's right.
you're not getting your sleep, or you're not getting the kind of sleep that allows you to dream, you're cutting off so much that can help in the day world, so
You cut off for a second, but you were
and do it.
You cut off for a second,
It's a
but you were
passion.
saying about non-dreamers and those who dream. Did you recognize, maybe observe something like that those who dream, like you yourself, when people are around you and they tell you, oh no, I never dream, but just by hanging out with you, they start dreaming?
No, my husband, we've been married almost 25 years, and he never dreams.
Okay.
He sleeps with me tonight. And he doesn't care about dreams, honestly. Well, this me. It's like, so I recognize that not everybody is as interested, and especially in the West, I sometimes think I landed in the wrong space, and I should have been like, somewhere where they really value dreams. But I just, I keep talking about it. So I'll keep talking about it. It's just what I do, because I feel like it's really helpful.
Sorry, because you're cutting off a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that you finished that subject about nightmares, because you started this interesting thing, how to deal with nightmares. I think if you share with what you figure out about nightmares, about your son, a lot of people may resonate with it.
Well, I don't know that I have a solution, sadly. I know that when that was going on, I mean, it all goes down to finding a state of for yourself, right? And when we got the health aspect all into a stable space, that cut down on that. So our dreams are there to things. When they get really scary and they're night terrors, we need to address that with a professional team. I really believe that, because that you can't just go on without this.
Did you discover the message behind his nightmares? Did he discover? That's the most important
message. What I'm talking about, I can take my type of dreams, and I can break them down when it is the material at the level of the scariness that he didn't even want to talk about. When it hits that level, no. I mean, and honestly, I went to a very big world-renowned dream specialist when I went to one of his workshops, and I brought this to him, and was not helpful. So he didn't even follow up. So I think that we like to talk about the romantic aspects, but I don't have the answers. I mean, I wish I did, because he's not the only one I know that has those types of nightmares. He doesn't at this point in his life, because he's learned to manage it. But it's an early indicator with children. And an early sign of bipolar illness. This is probably better put.
You cut off for a second. I think I know what you wanted to say. That is one of the early symptoms about bipolar disorder or any other disorder. So you detect that. You asking children how they dream, probably, if they have nightmares, right?
I'll let you know. the night terrors are not your normal nightmare. They're like very verifying, and they're screaming. In fact, our son would scream in like the fourth grade, and my husband would go down and communicate with him and say, turn the volume, find the volume, turn the volume down, turn the volume down, and then he would calm down somehow. That worked. I don't know.
I see.
It was like, but that was something that we worked with. I mean, not finding a message, just that, okay,
it was
this
too
is an
scary.
indicator.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so badly when people have that going on, though, because it's just, I imagine it's different. I mean, half the people can't even remember their dreams. So, there's like these different camps, right?
But dreams.
And for those people, I mean, it really is intention, first of all. And then it's like doing it right before you get out of bed, writing something down, writing it down, like rehearsing it in your head, what you're going to write down before you even move. Because it just, goes anyway. It's a training process, just like anything.
Right. Because of our connection is maybe not the best today, and there is so much I would love to talk about with you and share the experience, because I think it's really good that people hear it. A lot of people have similar experience, and they have nobody to come forward, or they raise their questions on social media, but the number of people that are answering, they also have no clue what to do. So maybe we will find a better connection. And in the meantime, if anyone has questions that would like to ask Jamie, please write under this video. And I will also leave the links under this video to her website, to the books she wrote about the subject. She wrote about intuition, about mental illnesses. What else you write about? Because I saw the book about Facebook, about Mark Zuckerman. What did you write?
Yeah, no, I did an autobiography on Zuckerberg and Bezos, Jeff Bezos, who's the Amazon. Both very interesting. I love people. I love learning. Everybody's got such a fascinating story. I could just sit on the couch with you, Joanna, and talk to you for like 8 hours about your personal story and be completely captivated. So that's me. Yeah. So it's me writing those books, finding out all those things about those were work for hire. Just they were curriculum, to bring into the schools, educational market. But yeah, intuition is actually not as it's intuition saved my life because my babysitter was a serial killer.
Oh my God.
That's kind of what that book is about. It's actually based on, it's a YA thriller, but it's based on a true story of the last day when he picked up his last kill in 1978. He had tried to pick me up, and along with a number of my friends, it turns out, I learned when I published that book. And he was hunting. But I think in that case that my intuition saved my life that day. And so I was only 14, it was like a whole story. That's what that story is about, more than intuition, like mind, body, spirit. It's about like not getting killed by the serial killer that day. So, but that was just, writing is a healing process also, right? I mean, this, right? So we go through and we write those books that are like tumors. We have to lift out these tumors from us before we can write, clear the channel, right? Before we can clear the channel of what really wants to come from us. And what I said right now, what
you cut out for a second there.
When I write now, can you hear me?
Yes, sort of, because you are cutting out. Are you there now?
Okay. Yeah. So when I write now.
Yes, go ahead. When you write now.
I sit, ground myself, and say to spirit, what do I need to bring to the planet to lift the planet up through story that will help the world? That's what I say. and it comes out in all sorts of different ways, and I just try and let it flow out. So
it's like channeling, right? Very
yeah,
much.
it is. It's like, but you have to clear that, right? And so you have all these other
Yes.
stories that are like through your life that are you have to clear out before you
Yeah,
can.
you sort of have to edit that. Yes. To have
Yeah,
the
I
clear
feel
message
so.
coming. Can you still hear me? Because I really hope that everyone was able to hear you through this connection. I think we're going to stop at this point. And one more time, everyone, if you have questions, please ask Jamie question. I really hope for a better connection next time. Today, thank you so much for sharing everything you managed to share with that connection, and we are looking forward to more questions from you. Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much, Joanna. It was so fun to see you.
Me too. I
Thank
really
you.
hope for more. Thank you, and everyone have a good night, good day, and inspiring time. Bye bye.